It's a critical position in the now crumbling city of Johannesburg, member of the mayoral committee for group corporate and shared services. It may sound a fair bit vague, but in this seat, you're responsible for finance management, the city's IT infrastructure, as well as supply chain processes. And it's now occupied by one Mr. Sithembiso Zungu. He's an ANC politician who has anything but quietly climbed the political ranks, as allegations of his running of a local construction cartel have followed him for years. Enough now to attract a Hawks investigation. Well, Zungu may well be Mzansi's dirtiest politician. That's argued by our News 24 editor-in-chief, Adriaan Basson. He's joining us live now in our Cape Town studios. Adriaan, Lekker, how are you?
Hello, Graeme. Well, it's a bit of a heavy topic to be smiling about, but, you know.
I'm just happy to see you back in studio.
The hope remains.
100%. When did you hear first about Mr. Zungu?
Look, I've been covering a lot of dirty politicians in my life as an investigative journalist for the past 20 years. In this era of national dialogues and talking about the country's future and what's going to replace the ANC, that's clearly losing a lot of popular support, I thought, how low can the ANC go? And then in April this year, our colleague Tankiso Maketa, who's been on the show with you to talk about Sithembiso Zungu, wrote this incredible story about this, the ANC's chief whip in the City of Johannesburg Metro, that has been accused of these terrible things, including running a construction mafia in south of Joburg, Vlakfontein. I mean, it is that's just the most extraordinary allegations. Now, the readers of News 24 wouldn't be unfamiliar with this phenomenon of construction mafia. Basically, what happens is local communities, through what is called business forums, insist on getting a cut from construction tenders in the areas, often paired with violence or threats of violence, and then extract payment from contractors to build schools, roads, bridges, whatever. What shocked me was that this was a ANC politician who was clearly on the up and up in the city of Joburg. Now, you would know, Graeme, that the city of Joburg is not in the best space at the moment. The residents of Joburg often have to go without water, electricity, and crumbling infrastructure. So I just found it absolutely extraordinary 2 weeks ago when I saw that the Johannesburg ANC Mayor, Dada Morero, promoted Mr. Zungu from chief whip to a member of the mayoral committee. And just to clarify for our listeners, a MMC is the equivalent of a minister at local government level, at municipal level. So a MMC, a member of the mayoral committee, is akin to a minister in the national cabinet and in the city of Joburg. And here is this guy who is being investigated for not only being allegedly corrupt, but also being part of the mafia, literally being promoted to head up shared services in the city of Joburg. I just found it extraordinary.
Absolutely. So formerly, before he was even ANC chief whip within the city of Johannesburg, this particular ward is 122 Business Forum, as you say, based out of Vlakfontein. And as you know, payments are supposed to be made to this forum in order for any work in that particular area to get underway. And one of the last sort of reportings that Tankiso did was about this school refurbishment project that genuinely could not get off the ground because of these allegations of extortion, etc., etc., and that payments were made, but yet construction or work had yet to get underway. And that's sort of one of the on-the-ground practical examples, if you will. And he's actually allegedly had to show himself into prison. He's been sentenced before, has he not?
Yeah, so there's basically three cases or three allegations of construction mafia activity against MMC now, Zungu. The first one happened in 2019 when there was 70 houses, RDP houses were built in a place called Lehae, which is south of Johannesburg, south of Soweto, in close to Lenasia, that area, yes. Now, this is where Zungu has his stronghold. This is where he was a ward councillor. He's a community leader. He was also head of the business forum, the so-called business forum, which is really just another name for organized local mafia at local government level to extract from government contracts. Now, in 2019, a tender was awarded to a company called City Dev to build 70 houses. So a relatively kind of smallish tender, a few million rand still. But this company called City Dev had to go to the Johannesburg High Court, and this is how it got into the agenda of News 24. They had to turn to the Johannesburg High Court to get an interdict against Zungu and two of his associates for intimidating and disrupting this house building project in La Haye in exchange for money, for payments. It seems like this company, City Dev, allegedly capitulated and started paying them for peace, but at some point ran out of money, ran out of cash. They couldn't pay them anymore. And at that point, Zungu allegedly started his disruptions again, started getting onto site, stopping workers, intimidating workers from building homes unless they paid him. City Dev then asked the Johannesburg High Court for an interdict banning Zungu's presence at the site. They were granted this interdict. He breached the interdict. He and his associates again intimidated employees. And he was then sentenced, according to our colleague Tankiso Maketa, to 2 months in prison, of which he had only served a few hours, according to our sources.
Yeah, according to the sources, he was there, but there's also consternation because we heard from Correctional Services spokesperson Singobako Nxamalo that apparently he wasn't there, so that couldn't be confirmed outright. So there's a bit of a mystery there in actual fact, whether or not he
even... It's possible that he was in the holding cells of the police and that
Sure.
he's not on the DCS registrar. The point is, this guy is clearly in no position to hold public office. He's clearly in no position to hold senior public office. But in the ANC, seemingly in 2025, these things no longer matter. In fact, it probably serves in his favor to be involved in this criminal activity, to dodge prison time, and to be implicated of corruption. This is also, I just must just say before we go on to case 2, this is also the case which the Hawks is investigating.
Right.
And according to our colleagues at City Press on Sunday, they reported that the Hawks wrote to the city of Joburg in February this year asking for Zungu's payslip, asking for a lot of internal documents to finalize their criminal investigation. And according to City Press's sources, he is going to be arrested. The NPA is about to make an arrest for corruption, for taking this so-called facilitation fees. Now, again, you have to ask yourself, let's just step out of the criminal aspect for one moment. How on earth does Dada Morero, the mayor of the crumbling city of Johannesburg, a man who wants to contest for mayor next year against someone like Helen Zille of the DA probably, how does he think this helps the ANC and helps himself in terms of turning around the fortunes of Johannesburg by promoting someone at least implicated in serious corruption, wrongdoing, and construction mafia activity? I mean, this is just absolutely extraordinary, and that's why I thought let's call Mr. Zungu the most dirtiest politician in South Africa, because I've never seen it at this level.
As brazen as it is. And yet at the same time, as an aside, Adriaan, speaking previously to our Metro reporter in Johannesburg, Alex Patrick, she was stating how even now the smaller minority parties are sort of fighting over, side issues. There's a lot of unhappiness there. Why would a mayor then bring in somebody who has this massive case following them around, just to add to that overall consternation? Because I think sometimes, especially more recently in contemporary history, we worry a little bit about or we forget actually that Joburg's actually also a coalition government because we see the ANC in power there for quite a long time, right?
Because this happened. Zungu's promotion happened as a result of Margaret Arnolds, who was the NMC for Finance, being moved back to being the Speaker, a position in which she allegedly feels more comfortable in, and Morero, the mayor, having to appoint 2 new MMCs. Firstly, to replace Margaret Arnolds as Finance MMC, and then to replace the incumbent in that position,
Loyiso
Masuku, who was promoted to Finance MMC, and Zungu then filled her position. I just quickly want to go through the 2 other examples or cases against him. Graeme, in the second case, this is a school. So this was in 2021. The Gauteng Infrastructure Department awarded a tender of 135 million rand for the refurbishment and upgrade of the Nkululeko Yesizwe Primary School in Vlakfontein. Again, think South Joburg, think south of Soweto in the Lenasia area. Now, again, the allegation against Mr. Zungu is that at this time in 2021, he was still chairing the business forum. Now, the business forum, as I said earlier, has become this like almost a cloak name, which really just seems to disguise the construction mafia as something legitimate. I just want to state something for the moment. Of course, I think as a country, we need to have a discussion around how local communities benefit from infrastructure projects.
Absolutely.
And of course, it is a sign of the times, of the state of our economy and unemployment, that people become so desperate to want to have a cut of activity in the areas. When it is not okay, Graeme, is when there's violence involved, when there's intimidation involved, and when ultimately, as is the case with the Nkululeko Yesizwe primary school, the work doesn't get done. So what happened here? 2021, 135 million rand tender awarded by the Gauteng Provincial Department of Infrastructure Development. Mr. Zungu appears on the scene again, allegedly with the construction mafia, or then cloaked as the business forum, and they stop the construction. They intimidate the company. They allegedly threaten the construction company. That school today, 4 years later, has not been refurbished. Kids still go to prefab classes in winter. So this is the price of corruption and of the construction mafia in South Africa.
No surprises. He's obviously denied
He's
all of this on
denied
record.
these allegations, absolutely, for the record. And then the third case that he's facing.
This is more current.
More current, and this was again reported by our colleagues at City Press, was the Golden Highway. Now, those of you living in Johannesburg or in Gauteng will know how important a road the Golden Highway is. It runs between Johannesburg, those big townships around Johannesburg, and Van der Bijl Park to the south, to the Vaal. So this is a very important artery, and that road has not been refurbished for many years. I remember when I lived in Johannesburg, driving on the Golden Highway and thinking this needs a bit of TLC. So what did the government do? Gauteng's municipality awarded a tender for 550 million rand. No, not small change, Graeme. Big tender to a company called Lone Rock to upgrade the Golden Highway. This was earlier in 2025. So we're speaking this year. So remember, the first case was in 2019, the second one 2021, and now we're in 2025. Again, same modus operandi. Coincidentally, Mr. Sithembiso Zungu appears on the scene of the Gauteng Golden Highway upgrade project, threatens the company Lone Rock not to continue.
Same modus operandi.
Assaults the workers with sticks, apparently, knopkieries, and the community takes the law into their own hands, stops the project, and insists that they have to be given a slice of the tender. They're speaking around, our colleagues wrote about 30% of this tender that they wanted for them.
It's a lot.
And again, Graeme, this seems to now become a trend. This company, Lone Rock Construction, has to go to the court. They go to the Gauteng High Court in Pretoria this time, again obtains an interdict against local businesses, civil servants, and taxi associations from blocking this project. And the company, in their court papers and in court under oath, accuses Mr. Zungu of being the instigator. Again, he denies it, of course. But isn't it coincidental that the same guy who's been on the rise in the ANC, first as a community leader, business forum head, then as a ward councillor, as chief whip, and now as MMC?
A critical position that's supposed to assist the finance MMC quite closely, because one of the responsibilities under that portfolio, if I may add, Adriaan, is financial management, IT systems, and also supply chain management.
Absolutely.
So that's critical engine oil.
Imagine the amount of tender money that goes through that department. So Mr. Zungu, now promoted to the head of shared services in the city of Johannesburg, that was rebuked sternly by the finance minister 2 weeks ago for not spending money correctly, for not obeying the PFMA.
Not getting clean audits. And in fact, Mayor Dada Morero is at the moment under strict instruction from Enoch Godongwana, the finance minister, to fix Johannesburg. So it boggles the mind. It absolutely boggles the mind how Morero could have promoted someone like Mr. Zungu, who seems to be more interested in extracting money from construction projects than in bettering the city of Johannesburg to the benefit of all its citizens, including children who has to go school in prefab classrooms. Your political sort of opinion piece today is the South Africa's dirtiest politician, picking up a lot of commentary on the front page of News 24, Adriaan. I love that you sort of hark back to some of the more cleaner names within the ANC ranks of yesteryear. Who are those, high-profile names and figures that stand out for you?
So I write a column for News 24 every Monday, and it's published on Tuesday mornings. And what I normally do on a Monday afternoon is I try and conceptualize my column. I think of a topic that's in the news, and then, what do I have to say about something I feel really strongly about?
It has to be natural. You can't put it on.
It has to become natural. It can't be fake. Some of, my worst columns were not from the heart, but you have to write from the heart. That's really when it matters. And yesterday I was sitting there thinking about Mr. Zungu and Pereira, what's happening in Johannesburg. And I remember this ANC document called Through the Eye of a Needle. Now, those of our listeners who read the Bible will know where that comes from. It's easier for a camel to walk through the eye of a needle than for a rich man to enter heaven, or something like that. That's what I recall from my church-going days. But the ANC, obviously a party steeped in the Christian...
Matthew 19:24. Sorry to interject.
Thank you. Obviously, a party like the ANC originally steeped in Christian theology and adopted this kind of language from the Bible. And in 2001, so we're talking 24 years ago.
Different time.
Thabo Mbeki is the president of the ANC. The ANC gets 2/3 majority in the votes in the elections. And they release a document called Through the Eye of a Needle, choosing the best cadres to lead transformation. And I went back to that document yesterday just to remind myself of where the ANC was at some point in the past 2-3 decades. And under point 37 in the document, it states, a leader should lead by example. He should be above reproach in his political and social conduct as defined by our revolutionary morality. Through force of example, he should act as a role model to ANC members and non-members alike. Leading a life that reflects commitment to the strategic goals of the National Democratic Revolution includes not only being free of corrupt practices, it also means actively fighting against corruption. So this was something that an ANC leader ideally had to embody. Of course, looking at it now, one wants to almost cry because the ANC has just been so embedded in corruption, and a large part of ANC leadership have steered from this path that people like Kado Ashmal, Frene Ginwala, Kgalema Motlanthe, Max Sisulu, Collins Jabane, Teresa Solomon, late Trevor Manuel for this party. One can think back of many ANC leaders in the early years, the first 1.5 decade of democracy, who were really in it for the cause, who didn't live these
great policy minds, Joel Netchentenje.
Yes, and ANC, it's easy today for a lot of critics to say, oh, well, the ANC was always corrupt. We always knew it. No, I don't subscribe to that view. I think that there was a large section of the ANC in the early years of democracy that were trying to do the right thing. One can criticize their policies in hindsight. One can criticize, was BE, for example, the right thing at the time? Should we change it now? Absolutely happy to have those discussions. But something happened in the moral fabric of the ANC in the past 3 decades, because it's very hard today to look at the ANC leadership and to find easily 10, 15, at a stretch 20 leaders who we know without a whiff is not involved or implicated in any wrongdoing or corruption. We've tried that exercise. It's very hard. From the president to the deputy president and the many members in cabinet. Think Pala Pala, think Paul Mashatile's houses, think Bosasa. So, we live in an era and a time now where the ANC is so deeply involved in corruption, where it's almost synonymous with corruption. We know that Judge Zondo, former Chief Justice Zondo, found that the ANC had unabled state capture during the Zuma years. And then to still have in this so-called Ramaphoria era where Cyril Ramaphosa promised clean governance, to have someone like Sithembiso Zungu promoted to head up shared services that includes things like IT in the city of Joburg is really something to cry of. It is terrible. It is an indictment on the rotting state of the ANC. And it does not bode well for a party already in the 30% in Johannesburg in the last local government elections that's trying to bat for their lives in next year's local government election.
Notwithstanding, I can't even get over the fact of Paul Bashatile's mansions up and down in Mzansi. Must be lacquer. Oh, that's all I'm saying. Look, you recently went up to Josie. I haven't been up in a hell of a long time. It's difficult to find sometimes a block in your calendar because you're flying almost every second week. But I remember you coming back recently, and I saw you in the corridors, and you're just like, yes, see. The urban decay and entropy is really set in terms of that metro.
Yeah. I love Johannesburg.
Same, yeah.
I lived in Johannesburg for most of my life as a child and as an adult. I've been in Cape Town for the past 10 years, but Johannesburg is one of my favorite cities. I love the energy. I love the hustling. I love the resilience of the people of Johannesburg. But, to my new Cape Townian eyes, every time I go back to Joburg every month, I do see the decay. It is obvious. And it's no longer, a secret to even people in Johannesburg. I mean, our colleagues in Johannesburg often goes without water, electricity, potholes have become the norm. Robots or traffic lights aren't fixed anymore. And Johannesburg has to be saved. Johannesburg it is the core of our economic heartland. It is still the economic capital of South Africa. I don't know how longer Johannesburg can survive at the rate of things going. And I'm sorry to say, with people like Mr. Sithembiso Zungu, who may be South Africa's dirtiest politician, at the helm of the cabinet of Johannesburg, this doesn't bode well for the future of the city of gold.
100%. And I always say that, for me personally as a journalist, I always feel like the municipal elections are a little bit more important than the national elections. I really will die on that hill from the perspective of service delivery and what it means for the people on the ground, because that's where you really get tangible change, right? And if you still got things like Kenny Sagat, yes, it's been turned into a political, a hot talking point for the DA to bluster about, but it's still something that exists to this day, and we really need to be wanting for better. What do we expect of local leaders?
I think firstly, I agree with you. I think local government is crucially important, and in fact, municipal elections for me are even a little bit more exciting.
100%, yeah.
Of course, national elections are very important, but municipal elections tells you something about a place. It's literally bread and butter. It's literally pothole politics. It is about, can I drive to my work? Are there traffic lights working? Do I have water? Do I have electricity? Those are the things people will vote on next year. And I think we have a massive, exciting election ahead of us. Can I just tell you an interesting story, Graeme?
Sure, go for it.
Johannesburg last week, I spoke to quite a number of people about this Helen Zille wanting to throw a name into the hat to become the mayor of Joburg.
Tony Leon's a big fan
of the idea.
Yes.
Yeah. Not of Zille, but
we won't go down that road.
Well, you can just read his book. But look, I mean, so Helen Zille, we don't have to unpack Helen Zille today. I mean, we all know who she is, and the stuff she said, but also the stuff she's done in her career. A bit of a disputed legacy, a bit of a contested legacy, if I may. As mayor of Cape Town, premier of the Western Cape, and then also as DA leader and now a chairperson. But what was very interesting for me when I went to Johannesburg is every single person I spoke to, and I tried to speak to a variety, diversity of races, genders, classes, ideologies. Every single person I spoke to in Johannesburg on my last visit told me that they would vote for Helen Zille as mayor if she could fix the city. And I thought this was a very interesting moment. I thought this was a very interesting moment where someone who was seen as a bit of a toxic politician about 2-3 years ago, who was kind of written off from the national political landscape.
Tweets about colonialism, not doing any.
But because she has a good reputation as mayor of Cape Town, and because of the things that Cape Town has today, and this is again not me, I mean, lest I be accused of having a Cape Town bias. This is the Auditor General. Look at the Auditor General's reports into Cape Town and Johannesburg and compare them. because of the reputation, because of the legacy that she has built up as a capable mayor of a big city, people are willing to give her that chance. People are willing to say, well, we'd rather take Helen Zille, fix Johannesburg, than another 5 years of ANC misgovernance. And that for me is a telling point. And I don't want to preempt this, but this could be a turning point in South African political history.
I believe so as well, especially in the light of the fact that she's had the initial sort of testing ground for coalition politics to a degree. She had to navigate quite extensively within the city of Cape Town. Now, perhaps maybe there's a circumstance again where Joburg is not an outright majority and the DA is then in a, I don't know, maybe a bit more of a majority position. Who knows?
And at the moment, Mayor Dada Moreira is her biggest campaigner.
Sure.
By appointing people like Sithembiso Zungu.
100%. And I wonder if it's not because the ANC's run out of people and they're throwing whatever options that they have against the wall in the run up to the elections.
I can't speculate on why Zungu. I don't know enough about the ANC's Johannesburg structures to say with certainty why someone like Zungu, who's clearly not fit for public office, has been promoted. I think there's another possibility that the ANC's patronage politics is now so strong that they are literally in survival mode. So this guy can deliver the votes from south of Joburg East, may be the mistaken or correct belief. That this is a strong man in ANC politics who also uses his largesse from the construction mafia to, pay people off. I mean, I think this is where we are in terms of ANC local politics. And it's a sad, sad state of affairs, many moons removed from the eye of a needle.
But if I may also just add and be a little bit devil's advocate, also putting someone like Helen Zille into the position, it does genuinely bring up the feeling of, well, we've run out of people at this stage. Obviously, we haven't. There are so many great leaders out there that have yet to perhaps put their hand up or be seen or more heard within the quote-unquote mainstream. But, I am yearning for more.
Well, I had an interesting discussion with someone this morning over coffee, and I'll maybe leave you with this thought. The ANC is clearly dying. I think we are living in the end times of the ANC. Look at the performance last year in the national election, 40%. Polls show us they're in the 30s now. If someone like Paul Mashatile becomes president, they may even go into the 20s. But what is replacing the ANC? What is coming in its place? There's going to be a vacuum in our politics, and who will fill that vacuum? And that means exciting, but also potentially frightening and scary times ahead. There has to be new people who put up their hands to enter our body politic. And this is to echo someone like Songezo Zibi, the leader of Rise Mzansi. Where are the professionals? Where are these people who are not entering politics in South Africa? Are they going to join existing parties? Are they going to launch new parties ahead of next year's elections? What lies ahead? Interesting times for journalists.
Yeah. And before we had this discussion today, you asked me how I was doing, and I said my energy was a bit low. It's part and parcel of the fact that we have been doing and focusing quite heavily on the lead, all the great investigative work that News 24's investigations team has put out, uncovering whether or not it's financial whistleblowers out in Kudaleni coming under fire, losing their lives for doing basic work from within metros and looking closer at the books. It's just brazen corruption like in this Vlakfontein example. I'm tired of it. I'm tired of it. Where's the accountability? And of course, many of us have been asking for that for the really longest time. And then you have former Chief Justice Raymond Zondo saying he doesn't have a whole lot of confidence in the Hawks to bring about that accountability. Something needs to change.
Well, I can just tell you, and you will know this, there's millions of people who feel the same way as you do. And many of them have started to change their vote. We saw this not only in the last national election, but since 2016, the ANC has lost power in the city of Johannesburg. They haven't been over 50% since the 2011 elections in Johannesburg. So, if parties are corrupt and if they turn on their supporters and they don't deliver basic services, they will be voted out of power.
I want to end off on this, Abby, and indulge me quickly lastly. There's this false perception going around that because more, I would say, toxic alt-right commentators are being called out for whatever they say about false narratives about South Africa, and that seemingly reaches the ear of the most powerful in the world and the White House. that often the idea gets conflated that because that happens, why this whataboutism comes up that, yeah, but you as the media aren't being tough enough on the ANC, etc., etc. Well, we've been running these headlines about Mr. Zungu for the longest time.
Yeah, I mean, anyone who says that News 24 and its journalists have not been tough on the ANC cannot read, with all respect. I'm willing to give a free subscription to anyone who holds that view. They must just contact me. My email address is on the internet. News 24 has been at the absolute forefront of exposing the ANC government's corruption for the longest part of the past 10, 20 years. I don't have to defend our legacy. It's there for anyone to see. Babita Deokaran, Bosasa, we were part of the Gupta Leaks team, the Eskom files, Paul Moshatile, etc. And we will continue to do so. We will not play to the gallery. We will do what is right for our country. We will keep all power to account, and continue to write and expose stories like this one of Mr. Zungu.
The Sasa saga feels like yesterday, but also 20 years ago. Is the South Africa's dirtiest politician? Is the opinion piece put out by Adriaan Basson an argument? If you will go and have a read, it makes for compelling reading, and also listen to this very podcast on the lead. Thank you so much. I really
Thanks,
do
Graeme.
appreciate it.
Yeah, lift the spirit.
Thank you, Adriaan.